A true horror story, experienced by a Korean cram school teacher. This story is about something I experienced firsthand about 10 years ago. Honestly, back then, just being able to leave that house felt like my life had taken a sudden, devastating turn. It wasn't just about moving, it felt as if the entire trajectory of our lives had shifted. After the incident, we swallowed a massive financial loss and eventually cleared out and left that house. Even so, my mother couldn't give up on the idea of living in the countryside. She proposed that we didn't have to go deep into the mountains, but we could buy some land in a residential area a bit away from the city center and start fresh. If this were today, I think I would have immediately thought, oh, what about the investment value and all that? But at that age, I didn't know enough to think about such things. I just thought, oh, so we're moving into another standalone house, and that was it. Besides, at that time, I genuinely believed that everyone lived in standalone houses. I had hardly ever lived in an apartment or a complex. So, we built a new 3-story house. And within the property, inside the walls, there was even a shop attached to it. My father had a job, but as our financial situation started to decline, my mother made up her mind and started a small business. I'm aware that some people might feel uncomfortable hearing this, but at the time, my mother ran a restaurant that served bosintang dog meat soup and samgyetang ginseng chicken soup, along with other dishes. Now I own a pet myself and I have no interest in eating things like that. But back then, my family was in an era where we were struggling desperately, trying to earn enough money even just for tuition. On days when a part-timer would suddenly quit, I would sometimes help out at the shop. Whenever a large group of customers came in, my mother would look genuinely happy. Once, when I had a broken iRiver MP3 player, she was so happy about the large group of customers that she even bought me a new one, saying, "I'll buy you a new one," but among those groups of customers, there were people who came quite often. They were police officers. They didn't come alone. An officer from the local station would bring their juniors or subordinates to eat in a group. That happened unusually often. There was a police station near the shop, and I suppose that was part of the reason. That police officer was a man with a kind impression. He was middle-aged, his tone was gentle, and he was polite in how he treated people. Whenever I was working at the shop, he'd be the first to notice, saying, "Oh, the boss's son, right?" When I was wearing my school uniform, he'd compliment me, saying, "You look like you're good at your studies." Sometimes, when he paid the bill, he would quietly leave a bit extra. Back then, I genuinely thought to myself, wow, this is the kind of adult who is truly a cool person. Time passed and I joined the military. I was in the Air Force and I was able to take leave relatively often, but at the time, I was literally a bottom feeder. It was that period when I couldn't go home even if I wanted to during the holidays. However, around Chuseok, a high school senior, who was like an older brother in the neighborhood, managed to get me leave. I didn't even know about it until the day before, and when the permission suddenly came through. I remember it even now, how excited I was, desperately brushing my hair despite not having any, thinking, I'm going. I'm really going. So, when you go on leave, the normal thing to do is to go straight home, but honestly, back then, there was someone I wanted to see more than my family. My girlfriend in Seoul. So, my head was in a mess. Should I stop by home and see Mom first? Or should I just head straight to Seoul? Thinking about it now, I deserved a beating. I was such a brat back then. In the end, I made up my mind. I can see Mom whenever. So, I intended to go to Gwangju Songjong Station and take a train to Seoul. But it was really strange, but on that day, my heart wavered for just a single moment. There was no reason. I just suddenly wanted to eat the stew my mom made. Plus, I felt a strange longing for home. I'm not a person with a sixth sense, nor have I ever seen a ghost, but on that day, for no apparent reason, my feet just started heading toward home. On my way back, listening to music on the MP3 player Mum had bought for me, I began to see our house in the distance. But, in that instant, something caught my eye first. Yellow tape. That tape used for crime scenes, marked with police line, was wrapped around our house, layer upon layer. At first, my mind went blank. What is this? Did a burglar break in? Did a gas explosion happen? But the closer I got, the more peculiar the air felt. There were too many people inside the taped-off area. People wearing masks and white hazmat-like suits were scurrying about busily. It was the National Forensic Service. Inside my mother's shop, which was attached to our house, the forensic team was inside, searching for something. The moment I saw that sight, my whole body froze. At the time, I was wearing a mix of military and civilian clothes, not quite a combat uniform, but definitely not casual wear either, a look that made it obvious at a glance that I was a soldier. Perhaps that's why the police eyed me with extra suspicion. I asked, almost screaming, "Excuse me, what happened at my house?" The officer took me aside and quietly told me. He said he couldn't give me the details, but there had been an incident involving bodily harm and they were currently investigating to collect evidence. The moment I heard that, my knees gave way. 1,000 thoughts exploded in my mind at once. Has something happened to my family? Where is Mom? Where is Dad? What on earth happened at the shop? Just then, my father appeared from behind. He grabbed my shoulder and said, "Are you on leave? Why did you come without calling?" That moment, knowing my father was safe, I finally regained a bit of my breath. But the real problem was what came next. The police officer continued his explanation. It seems the individual admitted during the inquiry that they had stowed away some belongings. And word had it that one of those locations was our mother's shop. The moment I heard that, I was in complete disbelief. Our shop? Why? How could that be? And then I arrived at the scene. I don't want to go into the details. It was just that, a kind of something that one would never want to see in their entire life, was hidden deep down beneath the bottom of the food waste bin in our shop. The moment it came into my sight, the sounds in my head just snapped off. I couldn't tell if this was a dream or reality, and a freezing cold sensation washed from my fingertips all the way down my spine. But what was even more shocking was the fact that the culprit was that police officer we used to see so often. The man who was kind, who had a good impression. The man who used to tell me, "Study hard, kid." That man. I kept denying it. No, that's not right. He's not the kind of person who would do something like that. Just then, my father patted the back of my head and said, "Don't you think you trust people too easily? How much do you actually know about him anyway?" Those words have stayed with me ever since. Later I was told even more stories. I was told that if you look it up, the records of this case would come out. The person involved had apparently hidden the clues in several different places, as if they were hiding something precious. At the bottom of a reservoir, under some facility somewhere. That's how they had left them scattered all over the place. And the trigger that caused the story to suddenly come out to the public was also hard to believe. The story was that while the perpetrator was drinking with his colleagues at home, one of them opened the refrigerator, saw something strange inside, and reported it. Even after hearing that, for a long time, it didn't feel real. How on earth could a human being do something like that? That single question kept circling in my mind over and over again. But the story didn't end there. As the investigation progressed, even more terrifying facts apparently came to light. It turned out that the police officer's first wife had been reported missing a long time ago. But strangely enough, that disappearance was never properly treated as suspicious. It was just glossed over and buried, left unresolved. This was because, within the atmosphere of same organization, same family, the thought of no way had taken precedence. The moment I heard that, I felt a deep chilling cold settle in the pit of my stomach. The scariest part of this case wasn't a ghost or a curse. It was just humanity. And the masks that people wear. I heard that the perpetrator, before ever facing a formal trial, took his own life during the interrogation. Once I heard that fact as well, I felt even more empty. So, the first disappearance is destined to remain an unsolved mystery forever. Is it all just going to end, with no one ever knowing the truth? Afterward, this case was heavily covered in the local news. We had a regional station in our area, and their programming was different from the Seoul broadcasts. Sometimes a drama would be delayed, and the local news would air first, and I remember it being covered to the point where everyone was forced to see it, whether they liked it or not. Our family even received requests for interviews. It wasn't something I wanted to do. Cameras swarmed in, even filming my family's distress, and in the end, I, being the young and easy to pressure one, was the one who ended up doing the interview. Honestly, I don't even remember what my face looked like back then. I just felt like I might just die right here. And even now, I can't forget it. The yellow police tape that was stretched out in front of our shop that day. The forensic team moving about inside it. And what I had witnessed. People who have seen ghosts often say, humans are scarier than ghosts. Back then, I understood the meaning of those words to the marrow of my bones. The incident itself was scary enough. But that wasn't what I was truly afraid of. It was the fact that someone who had been so kind could do such things. And the fact that, with no one ever suspecting a thing, that person had been living a normal, everyday life as a police officer. Even now I sometimes wonder, how much exactly can a person hide? And ever since that day, I've been certain of one thing: the scariest thing in this world is not ghosts, but humans.